After our neighbor lost her job, we offered to let her store a few boxes in our shed. She hugged me. Thanked me. Then a month later, we found she'd moved in, cots, furniture, power strip. When we asked her to leave, she said, "I've established tenancy now." I laughed. Until she filed an emergency order of protection, claiming I'd threatened her living space. When the sheriff came, she handed him a lease agreement, signed by my wife. My name's Mark. I'm 48. I live with my wife Candace in Franklin, Tennessee. We've been married 19 years. Got no kids, just a quiet life. We both work steady jobs, keep the house in order, stay out of trouble. Or at least we did. Until the woman across the street turned our lives upside down. Her name was Claire. Lived alone in a small rental, 2 houses down. Mid-40s, no kids, no husband. She kept mostly to herself. You'd see her walking to the store, waving but not stopping to talk. A little awkward. Candace felt sorry for her. She worked at some insurance office. Then she lost her job. Candace told me over dinner. "I saw Claire today. She got laid off. Said she's struggling." "That sucks," I said. "Hope she's got some savings." A week later, Claire came over. Candace had invited her for dinner. She looked tired. Thinner than before. After a glass of wine, she started crying. "I don't know what I'm gonna do," she said. "I need to move some stuff out of my place. I can't afford storage. I just need a little time." Candace looked at me. I shrugged. "We've got space in the shed," I said. "You serious?" "Sure," I said. "Just a few boxes." Claire stood up and hugged me, like I'd handed her a winning lottery ticket. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," she said. That was mid-September. At first, it was no big deal. She brought over some boxes, a few chairs, one of those cube shelves. I helped her stack things near the back of the shed. She said it was temporary, 2-3 weeks max. I even gave her a small padlock we weren't using. The first time I got that weird feeling was a month later. I went out to mow the yard and noticed the shed door was locked from the inside. "Candace," I said when I came back in. "Claire's in the shed." "So?" she said. "No, I mean in it. Like living in it." She looked at me, confused. Maybe she's just organizing stuff. I wasn't sure. But I didn't want to accuse her yet. Not without proof. The next night I waited. Around 11 p.m. I walked outside real quiet. I had a flashlight. I crept around the side and peeked through the dusty little window. What I saw made my blood run cold. There was a cot. A real one. Set up with a blanket. A lamp on a crate. A folding chair. A mini fan. A freaking power strip plugged into an extension cord running back to our garage. She had a little world in there. The next morning, I confronted her. "Claire, this isn't what we agreed to. You can't live in there." She didn't look surprised. She didn't deny it. She just said flatly, "I've established tenancy." I actually laughed. I thought she was joking. "What?" "I've lived here over 30 days. I receive my mail here now. Under Tennessee law, that makes this my legal residence." My face got hot. "You live in our shed, Claire. Doesn't matter. You offered it. I've got documentation. I've got a lease." "There is no lease." She pulled out a piece of paper. I saw my wife's signature at the bottom. I went back inside, holding it like it was toxic. "Candace, what is this?" She looked at the paper and her whole face changed. "Oh no. I didn't mean to sign a lease." "Then why the hell did you sign it?" She said it was just something for her storage insurance. She said she needed proof she had a safe space for her stuff. I didn't read it. I thought. I couldn't even speak. I just stood there, staring at her, watching my world collapse. 2 days later, a sheriff showed up. Claire had filed an emergency order of protection. She claimed I threatened her. Said I tried to forcibly remove her from her living quarters. Told the court I'd yelled violently and tried to illegally evict her. The sheriff didn't arrest me, but he gave me a copy of the report and told me to stay away from her space. Her space, my goddamn shed. That night, I sat in the garage alone. Candace tried to talk to me, but I waved her off. She had signed the damn lease. She gave this lunatic a legal leg to stand on. But I wasn't done. I wasn't going to sit here and let a stranger take over our property. That night I got online. Started reading. Housing codes. Shed laws. Zoning ordinances. Squatter laws. I started printing things out, making phone calls, setting up meetings. Because if Claire wanted to turn this into a war, I was going to beat her at her own game. And I wasn't going to break a single law doing it. I started with the city. I made an appointment with Franklin Code Enforcement. Sat down with a guy named Terry who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I slid the lease copy and photos of the inside of the shed across his desk. "She's living in this," I said. "Using a power strip off my garage. No insulation. No plumbing. No smoke detector. She says she's a legal tenant. This is my shed. She filed a protection order against me." Terry frowned, flipped through the pictures. "This isn't a legal residence. Not even close. I'll send someone out." 3 days later, a city inspector showed up. Took photos. Measured things. Said almost nothing. Just nodded and left. Claire watched from inside the shed, standing in her doorway like she owned the place. I swear I saw her smirk. The next day, she filed another complaint, this time with the city. She said I was harassing her by calling inspectors. Said I was retaliating against a vulnerable tenant. She knew exactly what she was doing. Candace tried to make peace. Left a note on Claire's door, asking to talk. Claire didn't respond. Instead, a week later, we got hit with a letter from a nonprofit tenant protection group. Said Claire had reached out for help. They were reviewing her case, and might get involved. They'd included copies of tenant rights information, zoning challenges, and a warning not to attempt self-eviction or interference with Claire's quiet enjoyment of her home. It made me physically sick. That night I told Candace, "You want to fix this? You're going to have to admit what you did. I already said I didn't know what I was signing. Then get a lawyer. Make a statement. Tell the court she lied to you." Candace looked like I'd hit her. "That would make me look like an idiot. You were an idiot. And now she's taking over our life." We didn't speak for a day after that. I couldn't even look at the shed anymore. Every time I saw that little string of white Christmas lights Claire had strung across the inside window, it made my hands shake. But the next morning, I got my break. I was talking to our other neighbor, Joel. He's a contractor. Real no-nonsense guy. He said, "You know what she tried to do to me last year? Asked if she could store stuff in my garage. I said no. Next day she left 3 bags by my back door and claimed I agreed to it. Took me weeks to get her to come pick them up. That was it." I asked, "Did you save anything? Emails? Texts?" He pulled out his phone. Showed me a thread. Her asking. Him saying no. Then her saying, "Thanks for understanding." I asked him to send it all to me. Then I reached out to another neighbor. Mrs. Lomas. Said Claire had pulled the same trick, asked to use her side yard for a garden bed. Then brought in 5 planters and left them for months, even after being told no. She kept pushing boundaries until people either gave up or told her to get lost. This was her pattern. I took all of it. Printed it out. Made copies. Filed an official motion to dissolve the lease and invalidate her tenancy on grounds of fraud and misrepresentation. Candace submitted a sworn affidavit. Said Claire lied. Said she was told the form was only for insurance. Said Claire used it without permission to claim residence. I filed everything in court. But Claire didn't back down. She lawyered up. A sharp, grim-looking woman named M.S. Gable started showing up to hearings. She tried to paint Claire as a victim. Said Claire had fled abuse and was housing insecure. Claimed I was hostile, unstable, dangerous. Brought up the fact that I'd once had a misdemeanor from 2003 for a bar fight I didn't even remember. The court delayed the ruling. Said they needed more time to evaluate tenancy validity. So Claire stayed in our shed. Through Thanksgiving. Through Christmas. And into January. That's when I made the second move. I found the original property plans for our lot. From 1982. The shed wasn't on it. It had been built by the previous owner in 2004. But, and this was key, it wasn't listed on the county's approved structures registry. It was technically unpermitted. Which meant, legally, it wasn't a recognized residential structure. I filed that with the court. Send it to the city. I argued that if the structure wasn't legally real, it couldn't legally be rented. Then I took it a step further. I asked the city for demolition approval. Candace looked horrified when I told her. "You're going to tear it down? With her in it? I'm going to give her notice." "But yes. You can't do that. Watch me." I gave Claire the notice myself. Walked it right to her front door, the sagging wooden entrance of the shed she'd turned into her lair. "This is official," I said, handing it through the cracked door. The city approved demolition. This structure is unpermitted. You've got 14 days. She didn't even blink. Just stared at the paper, then at me. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Then she slammed the door. That plywood shook like it might fall off the hinges. I didn't respond. Just walked back to the house. I had everything ready, contractor scheduled, tools rented, permits signed off. If she wasn't out in 2 weeks, that shed was coming down, with or without her things in it. But she wasn't done. 3 days before demolition day, she filed for an injunction. Said I was destroying her primary residence in retaliation. Claimed she had proof of her rights. Her lawyer sent over a letter demanding $15,000 in relocation costs and damages if we proceeded. That's when I snapped. I drove to the courthouse. Waited 5 hours for a judge. I brought every document. The fake lease. The neighbors' affidavits. The unpermitted structure report. Pictures of the shed's condition. No plumbing, no heat, a power cord snaking across my yard. I told the judge everything. From the moment I helped her carry her first box in, to the day the sheriff came. And I said something I hadn't said before. I believe this woman has done this before. And I believe she's doing it again. She's not vulnerable. She's a predator. And my wife, who made a terrible mistake, is now trapped in our own home because of her. The judge looked through the folder. He didn't say much. Just told me I'd hear back soon. 2 days later, I got a call. The injunction was denied. The court had ruled the lease invalid due to fraudulent circumstances and misrepresentation. The court also declared the shed unfit for habitation and not subject to tenant protection. The order said I had full authority to remove the structure, and that Claire had 5 business days to vacate. I thought we were finally free. Then came the twist I never saw coming. Candace sat me down the night before demolition. There's something I need to tell you, she said, eyes wide, voice trembling. I waited. She took a breath. I didn't just sign the lease. I helped her write it. My chest got tight. What do you mean? She said it was just temporary. She said it'd keep her from being homeless. I felt bad, Mark. She told me you'd never agree unless she had something in writing. So I helped draft it. I didn't think she'd use it like this. My stomach turned. You co-signed the scam. She nodded, crying. I just wanted to help someone. I didn't know she was crazy. I'm so sorry. I got up. Walked out. Sat in my truck for an hour. Didn't turn the key. Just stared at the dashboard. The woman I loved had set this entire thing in motion. And Claire? She must have known. Must have planned for Candace to fall for it. That's why she came to her, not me. She knew I'd say no. I was surrounded by liars. Still, the court had ruled. Claire had to go. When the demolition crew pulled up that Friday morning, I half expected a standoff. Maybe police. Maybe reporters. But Claire was gone. Just like that. The shed was empty. Cleaned out. Not a trace of her. Except one thing. Taped to the inside wall, near the window, was a note. You might have won, but she'll always have lied for me. Think about that every time you look at her. See? I ripped it down. Burned it in the fire pit that night. And I stared into those flames, wondering if the shed was really the only thing that needed tearing down. I didn't talk to Candace for 3 days. We still lived under the same roof, but the air between us was ice. I slept in the guest room. Ate alone. Didn't answer when she asked if I wanted coffee or dinner. I couldn't look at her without hearing Claire's voice. She'll always have lied for me. And the worst part? It was true. Candace had betrayed me. Maybe not on purpose, but it didn't matter. She gave Claire the pen, the words, the power. And Claire used all of it to try and ruin us. But Claire wasn't gone. Not really. She'd vanished from our shed, but she'd moved into Facebook. Into Nextdoor. Into every group and post about tenant rights in Williamson County. She spread her version of the story, twisted, polished, always the victim. She took me in. She wrote. Then her husband threatened me. I had nowhere to go. I was misled, manipulated. I only ever wanted a safe place to land. She never named me directly, but everyone in the neighborhood knew. Then the letters started showing up. On our porch. In our mailbox. Typed. No return address. Slumlord. Predator. You destroy homes for fun? I couldn't prove it was Claire. But it was her tone. Her language. Her cruelty. I wanted to let it go. I wanted to move on. But I couldn't sleep. So I went digging. Claire had a trail, thin but real. I found an old blog she ran in 2014, back when she lived in Indiana. She'd written long posts about finding sanctuary, reclaiming stolen space, and testing boundaries in private zones. It was all in this strange activist tone, like she believed she was doing something noble. I traced her through forum posts, rental boards, and finally, county court records. She'd pulled this 5 other times. 5 different towns. 5 different sheds, basements, guest houses. Each time the same story, sympathy, then squatting, then legal threats. And each time, someone else paid the price. I took everything I found and sent it to a lawyer I trusted, a guy I'd done plumbing work for over the years. He agreed to help me file a civil suit for damages. But the biggest twist came after. About a month later, I got a call from a woman in Murfreesboro. Said she'd seen a post I made in a private homeowner group. She asked if Claire was the same woman with red hair and the shoulder tattoo who used to sell homemade candles. I said yes. She laughed. She's staying in my cousin's art studio right now. Said she's paying rent. But my cousin says she hasn't seen a dime. You want her address? I didn't answer at first. Then I said, no. But tell your cousin to put a lock on everything. And don't let her sign a damn thing. But I wasn't done. I filed a small claims suit. Public record. I attached every document, every photo, every neighbor affidavit. I made it clear it wasn't about money. It was about exposure. Claire never showed up to the hearing. The judge ruled in my favor. It won't get me a penny, but now there's a judgment under her name. Her name's attached to court records that anyone can Google. And I made sure people would Google. I started posting on public homeowner boards, using my real name. I told the whole story. Every lie. Every court filing. Every fake lease. It started getting shared. A woman from Alabama messaged me a week later. Said Claire had tried to move in with her aunt. It wasn't just revenge anymore. It was protection. As for Candace, we tried counseling. We tried talking. But something had broken. And it didn't come back. 6 months after Claire left, Candace moved in with her sister in Kentucky. Said she needed space. Said she couldn't stand the way I looked at her now. I let her go. We still talk sometimes. But the trust is gone. Maybe forever. The shed is gone too. In its place is just grass. Clean, open, empty. Some nights, I sit on the porch and stare at that patch of land. And I think about how a single hug, a small favor, and one bad signature nearly burned my life to the ground. I learned something from Claire. Some people don't take, they infect. And when they're gone, you're not the same person who let them in. But that's okay. Because now I leave the door locked. And I read every damn word before I sign anything.